So here's the thing about finding yourself: no one warns you what it actually costs. It sounds so poetic, so mature, like you're choosing growth over comfort, clarity over confusion. But the truth is, sometimes finding yourself just means losing the one person who never needed you to be anything other than exactly who you already were. I'm Mir. And this is how I let the best man I ever had walk away while I stood there holding a backpack full of cliches and zero self-awareness. Ethan and I were solid. That's the word I'd use. Not flashy, not explosive, just steady, real, honest. We'd been together since college. 6 years. Lived together for 4 of them. Shared everything. Groceries, Netflix passwords, Sunday routines. I thought that kind of comfort was love. And maybe it was. But comfort gets a bad reputation when you're surrounded by people who glamorize chaos. Instagram couples taking spontaneous trips to Bali. Friends posting breakups like glow-ups. My best friend Tasha had just gotten out of a long-term relationship, and suddenly she was rediscovering herself through pole dancing and poetry slams. She looked radiant, liberated. And I started to feel stuck. It wasn't that Ethan did anything wrong. He was exactly who he had always been. Kind, loyal, thoughtful to a fault. He packed my lunch when I worked late. He knew when my cramps were about to start before I did. But somewhere along the way, that stopped feeling romantic and started feeling suffocating. It's embarrassing to admit, but the turning point came after one of those late-night wine-fueled hangouts with Tasha and her empowered single crew. They were trading stories about dating disasters and flings that turned into existential awakenings. I laughed, I nodded, I drank, but I couldn't contribute. When they asked how long Ethan and I had been together and I said 6 years, the room went quiet for a second. Then someone said, "Girl, how do you even know who you are if you've never been on your own?" I laughed. But it landed. I started spiraling after that, Googling solo trips, watching YouTube videos on living alone in your 20s, journaling like I was auditioning for a TED Talk. I told myself I needed space, not because anything was wrong, but because maybe I'd never really been me, just the girlfriend, just Ethan's other half. So one night, I sat him down on our secondhand IKEA couch, the one we built together and fought about for hours, and I told him the dumbest thing I've ever said in my life. I think I need to find myself. I whispered it like it was brave, instead of selfish. He blinked. Find yourself where? I don't know, I said. I've never really been alone. I need to know who I am without us. He didn't yell. He didn't beg. He just stared at me like I'd suddenly become a stranger, and I hated that. I hated how calm he was, how resigned. He asked if there was someone else. There wasn't, not physically, anyway. Just a version of me I hadn't met yet. The one I thought I needed to chase. We talked for hours. Or maybe we argued. I honestly don't remember most of it. I remember crying. I remember him saying, "I love you, but I won't compete with a fantasy." And I remember walking out with a suitcase and some dumb idea that I'd be back once I'd figured everything out. But Ethan didn't wait around. I stayed with Tasher. The first few nights, drunk on this newfound sense of freedom, I posted stupid quotes on my story like, "Sometimes you have to let go of the good to find the great." I was so sure I was doing something powerful, transformational. By day 3, reality started hitting. Tasha's apartment was tiny. Her empowerment didn't involve doing dishes or respecting sleep schedules. I missed the quiet. I missed the smell of Ethan's cologne. I missed someone asking how my day was and actually listening. By day 5, I told her I'd go grab a few things from the apartment. I hadn't heard from Ethan, but I figured he was giving me space. I still had my key, except the key didn't work. I stood there on the stoop in broad daylight, jiggling the lock like an idiot, trying to convince myself it was jammed. Then Mrs. Alvarez, our neighbor, leaned over the balcony and said, "Oh, honey, the locksmith came yesterday. He said he was making some changes." The blood drained from my face. I texted him. No response. Called voicemail. finally, he replied, "You can come get your things Saturday between 3 and 5. I'll be out." That's it. No how are you, no let's talk. Just a 2-hour window to collect the remnants of my old life. I sat on the curb and cried until my phone died. It hit me all at once. He wasn't playing along with my dramatic little journey. He wasn't waiting for me to come back wiser and more appreciative. He was moving on. He'd already moved on. The apartment looked smaller when I returned that Saturday, or maybe I had just become smaller. My boxes were stacked neatly by the door. Our photos were gone. Our life was erased like it had never existed. But the worst part, the real sucker punch, there was a coffee mug on the counter that wasn't mine. A scuff drape over the couch I'd never seen before. Subtle clues that someone new had already taken up the space I used to call home. I stood there frozen, trying to imagine another woman sipping coffee in my kitchen, laughing at his jokes, getting the version of him I threw away for nothing more than a mirage. I thought about dropping to my knees, about begging, but I didn't. I just walked out, carrying my regrets in cardboard boxes. Now, 6 months later, I live in a showbox apartment with thin walls and a drafty window. I have my freedom, whatever that means. I've been on some dates. I've posted thirst traps. I've done all the things you're supposed to do when you're finding yourself. But most nights, I sit alone with a glass of wine, scrolling through Ethan's engagement photos. Yeah, he's getting married. Not to me. To someone who didn't need to lose him in order to appreciate him. And me? I found myself. Turns out, she was just a girl who made a terrible decision because she mistook comfort for confinement. She thought self-discovery required destruction. She was wrong. So, if you're thinking about leaving someone just to find yourself, let me save you. Sometime, if the person you're with makes you feel safe, seen, and loved, you're not lost. You're home. Don't burn it down chasing a version of you that only exists in breakup songs and TikToks. Because when they change the locks, it's not just the door that closes, it's the chapter. The whole story. And sometimes, there's no getting it all back.